Welcome to this lecture on the Constituent Assembly and Drafting Committee. In this session, we will explore how the Indian Constitution was framed and the key figures behind its creation. We will discuss the formation and composition of the Constituent Assembly, its objectives, and the major challenges it faced. We will also examine the role of the Drafting Committee, led by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, in shaping the legal and governance framework of independent India. By the end of this session, you will understand how the principles of democracy, secularism, and social justice were embedded into the Indian Constitution. Let's begin. The Constituent Assembly played a crucial role in drafting the Indian Constitution. It was established in 1946 under the Cabinet Mission Plan to create a framework for independent India's governance. Initially, the Assembly had 389 members, representing provinces and princely states. However, after partition in 1947, the number was reduced to 299. The Assembly had several key objectives, including drafting the Constitution, establishing democratic principles, defining fundamental rights, and outlining the federal structure that balanced power between the central and state governments. The Constituent Assembly began its proceedings on December 9, 1946. With Dr. Sachidananda Sinha as the temporary chairman. This marked the first step toward framing India's governing document. One of the most important early actions was the introduction of the Objectives Resolution by Jawaharlal Nehru in December 1946. This resolution laid the foundation for sovereignty, democracy, and justice in India. The Assembly's debates lasted nearly 3 years, from 1946 to 1949, with members discussing various governance aspects over 166 sessions. Finally, on November 26, 1949, the Constitution was formally adopted, and it came into effect on January 26, 1950, making India a sovereign, socialist, secular, and democratic republic. Several key leaders played an instrumental role in drafting the Constitution. One of the most significant figures was Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who served as the chairman of the drafting committee. He was a strong advocate for fundamental rights, equality, and the abolition of untouchability. Dr. Rajendra Prasad, the president of the Constituent Assembly, played a vital role in ensuring smooth discussions and achieving consensus among members. Jawaharlal Nehru, who later became India's first prime minister, introduced the Objectives Resolution, which became the foundation of the Constitution. He also strongly promoted secularism and democracy. Other important members of the Constituent Assembly included Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, who worked tirelessly to unify 562 princely states into the Indian Union. Maulana Abul Kalam Azad played a crucial role in ensuring religious freedom and the protection of minority rights. K.M. Munshi advocated for free speech and cultural rights, helping shape India's approach to protecting diverse traditions and languages. Sarojini Naidu, one of the few female members, was a strong voice for women's participation in governance and equal rights. H.C. Mukherjee represented religious minorities, ensuring that the Constitution protected the rights of people from all faiths. One of the most significant contributions to the Constitution's development was the Objectives Resolution, introduced by Jawaharlal Nehru on December 13, 1946. This resolution formally declared that India would be an independent and sovereign republic, free from colonial rule. It also emphasized democratic principles, ensuring that India would be governed through parliamentary democracy, where leaders are elected by the people. The resolution further stressed justice for all, highlighting the importance of social, economic, and political justice in ensuring fairness and equality for every citizen. The Objectives Resolution also outlined India's federal structure, defining how power would be shared between the central and state governments. This helped balance national unity with regional autonomy. Another key aspect was the protection of minorities, ensuring safeguards for backward classes, tribal communities, and religious minorities. These provisions laid the foundation for fundamental rights in the Constitution. The resolution also reflected India's commitment to international peace and cooperation, promoting friendly relations with other nations. Ultimately, the Objectives Resolution became the guiding principle for drafting the preamble of the Indian Constitution, which enshrines India's core values of justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar played a crucial role in drafting the Indian Constitution as the chairman of the drafting committee. He was responsible for shaping its structure, ensuring that it reflected democratic values. He was a strong advocate for fundamental rights, ensuring that every Indian citizen had liberty, equality, and freedom of speech. His work guaranteed legal protections against discrimination and suppression. One of his most significant contributions was the abolition of untouchability through Article 17, which banned untouchability and promoted social equality. Dr. Ambedkar also introduced reservation policies for scheduled castes, SC, scheduled tribes, ST, and other backward classes, OBCs, to ensure their fair representation in education and employment. Dr. Ambedkar strongly believed in legal safeguards for individual rights. He introduced Article 32, which provided the right to constitutional remedies allowing citizens to approach courts if their fundamental rights were violated. He also played a key role in shaping India's federal structure, ensuring a balanced power sharing between the centre and states. Another progressive idea he proposed was the Uniform Civil Code, UCC, which aimed for a common civil law applicable to all citizens, irrespective of religion. However, this was not implemented at the time, due to opposition. Dr. Ambedkar also helped frame the Directive Principles of State Policy, DPSP, which provided guidelines for social and economic policies, focusing on issues such as education, employment, and healthcare. The drafting committee, led by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, was formed on August 29, 1947, and consisted of 7 members. One of its biggest tasks was reviewing over 7,600 proposed amendments before finalizing 395 articles in the Constitution. This meticulous process ensured that all perspectives were considered. To create a strong and effective constitution, the committee studied the constitutions of countries like the USA, UK, Ireland, and Canada, adopting best governance practices from each. A key focus was dividing powers between the centre and states, ensuring that the Indian government functioned efficiently while giving autonomy to the states. The drafting committee also defined the judiciary's framework, ensuring the independence of the courts to protect citizens' rights. One important addition was emergency provisions, which provided a legal framework to handle national crises, such as war, economic instability, or internal threats. After nearly 3 years of debates and revisions, the final draft of the Constitution was presented on November 4, 1949. The impact of the drafting committee's work was immense. It created one of the most comprehensive constitutions in the world, laying the foundation for democratic governance in India. The drafting committee faced several challenges while framing the Constitution. One major challenge was India's vast diversity. The Constitution needed to accommodate multiple languages, religions, and cultures, ensuring equal rights for all citizens. Another major hurdle was the partition of India in 1947, which led to massive political instability, communal tensions, and a refugee crisis. The debate on federalism was also intense. Some leaders wanted more autonomy for states, while others believed in a strong central government. There was also a conflict between fundamental rights and directive principles. Some leaders argued that individual freedoms should take priority, while others stressed the role of the government in ensuring social welfare. Social inequality was another major concern for the drafting committee. The Constitution had to include provisions to uplift marginalized communities while ensuring national unity. Ensuring judicial independence was another challenge. Courts had to remain neutral and serve as a check on executive power while protecting citizens' rights. There were also debates on the economic framework of the country. The Constitution had to address land reforms, taxation policies, and financial governance, ensuring economic stability. Finally, achieving political consensus was a massive challenge. The committee had to consider over 2,000 amendments while maintaining balance between progressive reforms and traditional values. The debate on fundamental rights was one of the most crucial discussions in the Constituent Assembly. Leaders emphasized the need for legal protection to ensure individual freedoms for all citizens. The right to equality was a major topic of discussion, especially regarding caste-based discrimination. Some members believed that the Constitution should guarantee equal rights regardless of caste, gender, or social background. Another area of debate was the right to property. Some members supported absolute private property rights, while others believed the state should have control over land and resources for the welfare of society. The freedom of speech debate revolved around how much freedom should be granted. Some wanted unrestricted freedom, while others argued for reasonable restrictions to prevent hate speech or threats to national security. After intense discussions, 6 fundamental rights were finalized. The right to equality ensured that no one could be discriminated against based on caste, gender, religion, or place of birth. The right to freedom guaranteed freedom of speech, expression, movement, and assembly, within reasonable legal limits. The right against exploitation prohibited practices like human trafficking, forced labor, and child labor. The right to freedom of religion ensured that all citizens could practice, propagate, and profess their religion freely. Cultural and educational rights were included to protect the rights of minorities and allow them to establish educational institutions. The right to constitutional remedies empowered citizens to approach courts if their rights were violated, making fundamental rights enforceable. One of the biggest debates in the Constituent Assembly was about India's federal structure, whether to have a strong central government or grant more autonomy to states. Some members wanted a decentralized system, where states had more control, while others believed a strong central government was necessary to maintain national unity. The Government of India Act 1935 played a key role in shaping federalism. Many of its provisions were retained, but with important modifications to strengthen state governance. To define power distribution, the Constitution created 3 lists. The Union list, which included subjects under central control, such as defense and foreign affairs. The State list, which allowed states to govern areas like police, health, and agriculture. The Concurrent list, where both center and states shared power over subjects like education and criminal law. Another key point of debate was emergency provisions. Some members feared that giving the center control over states in crises could lead to misuse of power. However, the final decision allowed emergencies to be declared only under strict conditions. Financial autonomy was another contested issue. States demanded more control over revenue, while the center argued for national economic stability. In the end, revenue-sharing mechanisms were designed to ensure fair distribution of resources. After careful consideration, a quasi-federal system was adopted, meaning India would be federal in structure but unitary in spirit, allowing flexibility in governance while ensuring national unity. The Indian Constitution was deeply influenced by socio-political ideologies from across the world. Democracy, as adopted in India, was inspired by the British parliamentary system, where elected representatives form the government and are accountable to the people. Socialist principles, such as economic justice and state-led development, were inspired by the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917 in Russia, which focused on reducing inequality and providing welfare to the poor. Gandhian ideals played a major role in shaping governance policies. Gandhi advocated for Panchayati Raj, village self-governance, non-violence, and social harmony, which were later incorporated into the Directive Principles of state policy. The US Bill of Rights heavily influenced India's fundamental rights, ensuring personal freedoms, legal protection, and judicial independence. The Directive Principles of State Policy, DPSP, were inspired by Ireland's constitution, emphasizing social and economic justice, including provisions for education, healthcare, and workers' rights. In the end, India's constitution successfully blended democratic governance with social justice, ensuring a system that was both inclusive and adaptable to future challenges. Now, let's test your understanding with a question. What was the main objective of the Constituent Assembly? Your options are: A. To establish British control in India. B. To draft the Indian Constitution. C. To implement British laws. D. To govern India under colonial rule. Take a moment to think before we reveal the correct answer. The correct answer is B. To draft the Indian Constitution. Checkmark. The Constituent Assembly was formed in 1946 to draft an independent constitution for India. It played a key role in shaping the legal and governance structure of the country. Here's the next question. Who was the chairman of the drafting committee? Your options are: A. Jawaharlal Nehru, B. Sardar Patel, C. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, D. Rajendra Prasad. Take your best guess. The correct answer is C. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Checkmark. Dr. Ambedkar, as the chairman of the drafting committee, played a leading role in structuring and finalizing the Indian Constitution. Let's move to the next question. Who introduced the Objectives Resolution in the Constituent Assembly? Your options are: A. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, B. Jawaharlal Nehru, C. Sardar Patel, D. Mahatma Gandhi. Think carefully before choosing an answer. The correct answer is B. Jawaharlal Nehru checkmark. Nehru introduced the Objectives Resolution on December 13, 1946, outlining the core principles of India's future constitution. Next question. Which fundamental right was included to abolish untouchability? Your options are A. Right to freedom, B. Right to property, C. Right to equality, D. Right against exploitation. Choose the right answer. The correct answer is C. Right to equality checkmark. Under Article 17, untouchability was abolished, ensuring equal rights for all citizens, regardless of caste. Now let's test your knowledge on federalism. The federal structure in the Indian Constitution was influenced by which act? Your options are A. Regulating Act 1773, B. Government of India Act 1935, C. Montagu-Chelmsford Reforms, D. Indian Independence Act 1947. What do you think? The correct answer is B. Government of India Act 1935 checkmark. This act introduced federal principles, dividing powers between the centre and provinces, which later influenced India's federal structure. Time for another question. Which part of the Constitution outlines socio-economic policies? Your options are A. Fundamental rights, B. Directive Principles of State Policy, C. Preamble, D. Emergency provisions. Take a moment before selecting an answer. The correct answer is B. Directive Principles of State Policy checkmark. DPSP, inspired by Ireland, guide the government in achieving social and economic welfare. Next question. Which article was described as the heart and soul of the Constitution by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar? Your options are A. Article 14, B. Article 19C, Article 32, D. Article 44. Think before answering. The correct answer is C. Article 32, checkmark. This article allows citizens to move the Supreme Court if their fundamental rights are violated. Let's move on. What was one of the biggest challenges faced by the drafting committee? Your options are A. Lack of British support, B. Diversity of languages, religions and cultures, C. No legal experts in the committee, D. Opposition from the Indian National Congress. Make your choice. The correct answer is B. Diversity of languages, religions and cultures checkmark. The committee had to create a constitution that represented all communities while ensuring unity. Here's another question. The Directive Principles of State Policy were inspired by which country? Your options are A. United Kingdom, B. United States, C. Ireland, D. France. Choose wisely. The correct answer is C. Ireland checkmark. India adopted DPSP from Ireland's constitution, focusing on welfare and social justice. Final question. What was a major impact of the Constituent Assembly? Your options are A. Establishment of a monarchy, B. Introduction of a parliamentary democracy, C. Adoption of British rule permanently, D. Creation of a single-party system. Last chance to answer. The correct answer is B. Introduction of a parliamentary democracy checkmark. The Constituent Assembly ensured India became a sovereign democratic republic with elected representatives. Thank you for watching this session on the Constituent Assembly and Drafting Committee. We hope this lecture provided valuable insights into the making of the Indian Constitution. If you found this video useful, please like, share and subscribe to our channel for more informative lectures. Stay connected, and we'll see you in the next session.